we took our first stab at really looking at this new guest-centered approach to interpretation. 2002 was when we first, when the leadership first kind of rolled out this idea of something is very wrong with our approach and here are some ideas for how to fix it. And then 2004 was the year that we really concentrated at the Golden Eagle and really looked at how this approach might differ. And 2006 was when the DVD came out. Okay. It freed us up to actually give guests what they want, which helps make them much more comfortable in a history setting. So many people have history anxiety. First of all, this is a weird environment to come into because you don't usually get to just wander through town and walk into people's houses. So they first of all didn't know how to behave, and second of all, we're always afraid that they would be ridiculed if they asked a silly question or showed that they didn't know enough about 1836. So opening doors allowed us to just sort of accept them as part of the experience, welcome them as our neighbors, make them really comfortable, and then, you know, put things in their hands, structure our activities around what they wanted to do, and all of those things just made our job so much easier and so much more effective. We've definitely noticed an increase in visitation, and I'm sure it's due to lots of things, but it's, I think, definitely partially due to the fact that our approach changed. There were definitely things about the old approach that worked well, and it took a lot of convincing to get you know, a certain percentage of the staff to believe that something was wrong. You know, there's a lot of if it's not broke, don't fix it sort of mindset. Right. And then once we sort of got beyond that, there was sort of a, well, what do we do then? Because in the old system where we used sort of a monologue approach, there was no question about how to do your job. It was scripted for you. The expectations were very clear. But now when you follow the guest interest, it's so much more broad and wide that there was a lot of anxiety about whether people were going to know enough and be able to pull off, you know, be able to really meet all the guests' needs. But once we got into it, once they started seeing how effective it was, it sort of reinforced all the things we wanted anyway. So there's still lingering resistance to change every now and then, and I've noticed that opening doors has been sort of condensed to a shorthand version of, instead of follow the guest's interests, a lot of people have interpreted it as just let the guests do whatever they want. And that's not necessarily the same thing. So so we still have some challenges with it, but overall, like I say, the effect has been so positive that it's been an easy sell ever since then. You definitely want to make sure that you know what your product looks like now. That's why we did several learning studies, because we really wanted to be clear, especially out here when the product is something so ethereal and hard to define, and you can't be watching every interpreter at every moment. You definitely want to know what you're working with now and have a really clear vision for how you want it to change, what really specific thing you want to see you know, become different. And then you got to put a lot of investment into supporting the staff. If we hadn't been able to budget extra time in for meetings after work, for meetings before work in the morning, for brainstorming sessions, I don't think the staff would have been able to handle it as well. Right. Because it was in those moments they can't prepare on post when they're in the moment doing their job as well as they can outside of their normal duties. Right. We have continued to have monthly team meetings where we get everybody together, and those have continued to be really effective in keeping a team ethic going and keeping everybody focused on the idea that this is a whole experience for guests and not little pockets of experiences that get strung together. It's so easy when you're just in one cabin to feel like you just have to worry about your own thing. So those team meetings really help. It's also a good spot for us to just communicate overall stuff and give some real pointed training sessions. And then our hiring process has changed a lot too. We look for a very different kind of person than we did 4, 6, 8 years ago. We now look for people who have a really positive outlook and attitude, who really want to learn, who really are excited about just doing whatever they can to make guests happy, and then we teach them the history and their responsibilities once they get here. We're really looking for history experts before, people who were, you know, history hobbyists or former history teachers, that sort of thing, because we had such dedication to getting all the facts right. And it's not that we don't now.
Right.
Authenticity is still very important to us, but we've learned that we can teach that easier than we can teach a positive attitude. One of my responsibilities is also museum theater, and I was so puzzled by the fact that when I hired in, I was told point blank that I'm not an actor and I shouldn't think of myself as an actor here, and I was like, I'm portraying somebody who's not me all day long. How's that not acting? And so now we've gotten much more lenient too about finding people with acting talent and trying to fit them into the right spots to pull that out. And kind of the next branch of opening doors that I've tried to undertake is putting people in roles that give them the opportunities to play to their strengths more. So those people who are great storytellers, we don't maybe expect them to do hands-on activities as often because we want them to get that storytelling experience out. People who are really, really great at getting a group to be hands-on with persimmons or whatever, they get put in different spots. So that's been really nice.
You can go ahead and, if you want to move into your role, that's fine if somebody walks in.
You guys having a good day? Yeah. Have you heard our big news here in this house? Young lady, have you ever been invited to a party before? Well, I definitely do a lot more planning than I used to when I'm in costume. I try to make sure at the beginning of the day that I have lots of hooks with me. So one thing I plan to do, I have a basket with me, and as I go through town, I'm going to try to collect things as I go, because kids love looking in your basket and picking through it, and it's a great way to start a conversation.
And what's a hook?
Any of those opportunities that somebody's not going to be able to resist. So whether hooks can be verbal hooks of, I tried with a lady earlier to get her to ask about my family by just throwing out things about it's real crowded at home, you know, try to get a tidbit out. Or having objects with you. Objects are the easiest hooks because they're often really interesting. You know, guests want to touch them or find out what they are. And then, of course, interaction between people can be a hook. Sometimes your costume's a hook, all of those things.
Right. So a couple of hooks that in this house, just to be, you just used a couple things. You used the invitation, the party.
And right now, the persimmon pudding that's on the table, any food that they're working with is always a hook. And I love food as a hook because it transcends age, gender, culture. Everybody eats. So,
Right.
And then in this house in particular, I try to think about what sets the house apart, what makes it, and the fact that there's a party here every day. Don't tell everybody that it's every day, but it is. That makes this house different, and the parlor with all the painting makes it different, and helps give you a bridge to talk about the family's past and the culture they bring with them.